Good evening, I'm Kananaskis. Welcome to APTN National News. Thank you for joining us. Today is day 2 of the G7 summit in Kananaskis, Alberta. The leaders of the wealthiest countries in the world are meeting to discuss various issues, but without a public agenda so far, it's hard to say exactly what the talks focused on. APTN video journalist Rachel May is at the summit and brings us this update.
The day began with Prime Minister Mark Carney and United States President Donald Trump addressing the media. Trump said that his main priority is trade with Canada. Trump says he has a tariff concept for trade, but it's not the same as Prime Minister Carney's, which he called a different idea that is complex. Trump then said he would like to see the effects of the G7 talks on tariff within days or weeks, as long as all parties agree. Carney said during his opening speech that this G7 is vital.
And we're gathering at one of those turning points in history. I think we all recognize that turning point where the world looks to this table for leadership.
In the days prior to the G7, some First Nations groups were saying the U.S. tariffs would have an economic impact on their rights to critical minerals and energy resource projects in their territories. Discussions will continue tomorrow on the final day of the G7. Rachel May, APTN National News, 2025 G7, Kananaskis.
Continuing the G7 conversation, our Yellowknife video journalist Bruce De La Cruz has the latest on what Northerners think about the global summit and how those discussions might affect them in the long term.
The 50th G7 summit has international leaders gathering in Kananaskis, Alberta this week. Economic partnerships, especially those between the US and Canada, has risen to the top of this year's agenda. But what does the average Canadian and Yellowknife think of the summit?
Well, you know, I'm really interested about how ultimately the tariffs affect the Canadian economy and trade, you know, between Canada and the U.S. because we're such important trading partners.
As a Fleet Show man, why do you think it's important for yourself and other Indigenous people to stay connected and stay on top of global politics?
Because it's our culture to look after a lot of people left and right. It doesn't matter about the color, we just care about a lot of people.
Like, there's a lot of broken promises and a lot of broken treaties and such, and the fact that given the circumstances that we're living in today, and housing crisis, money crisis, and it's just everything's going downhill, and leaders need to remember that, you know, the fact that we're all humans at the end of the day, man.
If there's anything that you would want to say or ask any of the leaders down south that are at the summit, what would you want to ask them?
Why us? Why us, you know, as Aboriginals? Like, why the poor? Why not the rich? And the rich stay rich, and they stay rich off the poor.
And that's been a glimpse into people's opinions here in Yellowknife on the summit. Stay tuned for more developments as APTN continues its G7 summit coverage. Bruce De La Cruz, APTN National News, Yellowknife.
Residents of St. Teresa Point First Nation in Manitoba will be able to return to their homes today, but fire officials in the province say there's still a reason for concern.
There are 18 fires burning in the province, and I believe 7 of these are out of control. We have seen a couple of new fires start in the last 24 hours, but they are not of a concern at this time.
Fire officials say they're concerned about a band of lightning that has moved across the province and could spark more fires. They say the largest fire in the province is around 71,000 hectares large. But the fires in areas closest to communities are being controlled and efforts are being made to keep highways open. More residents will be able to go home in the coming days and weeks, but officials say the precipitation levels have varied and warn that some fires might not be extinguished. Meanwhile, Saskatchewan got some relief from heavy rainfall, but that didn't reduce the number of wildfires. This morning, the province reported there's a new fire burning, bringing the total number of wildfires to 13 now. 6 communities also remain under evacuation orders there in Saskatchewan. And cool, cloudy weather has helped BC wildfire crews make major progress on the Dryden Creek wildfire near Squamish. The service provided this video shot from a helicopter, which shows the extent of the damage the fire caused since it began a little over a week ago. Although a local state of emergency remains in place, the fire is now thankfully classified as being held.
The fire is projected to remain within its current perimeter based on the fuel and weather conditions and resource availability that we currently have. There has been a ton of really hard work in quite challenging terrain to get to this place, and our crews will be working on the site probably for the next couple of weeks to bring it to under control and complete that mop-up.
It's believed the fire in Squamish was human-caused. Squamish RCMP have an active investigation and would like to hear from anyone who may have information about its origins. Another piece of provincial legislation has First Nations feeling ignored. This time it's Quebec's Bill 97, which aims to modernize the forestry regime. It will amend various pieces of Quebec legislation, including the Sustainable Forest Development Act. Many First Nations in Quebec have been contesting the bill. With more on this, our APTN reporter Savannah Craig joins us from our studio in Montreal. Savannah, thanks so much for being here. Why are First Nations contesting this bill?
Well, Creason, there's a few different reasons why First Nations in Quebec are contesting Bill 97. There are concerns that this opens the territory up to logging, as well as that the Quebec government has not given free, prior, and informed consent to First Nations in Quebec. And there's also concern that this bill violates the United Nations declarations on the rights of Indigenous peoples.
And Savannah, how are you seeing First Nations responding to Bill 97?
Well, there's quite a few responses happening from First Nations across Quebec. Atikamekw, Innu, and Abenaki First Nations were the first to respond to this legislation. Many community members from the Atikamekw, Innu, and Abenaki communities have banded together to form a group called Mamu First Nation. And within this group, they have staged blockades on logging roads. They've also sent eviction notices to logging companies. And what has been Quebec's response to this? Well, the Minister for Natural Resources, Métis Blanchette-Vézina, has said that blocking roads is not the way to respond and contest to this bill. And she has invited First Nations to the table to rewrite this bill and discuss this bill. So while this is what these three communities have been doing, there have been other responses from First Nations across the province as well. Last week, the Cree Nation government issued a statement saying that Bill 97 infringes on the agreements that they have with the province of Quebec, known as the Pays de Preuve and the James Bay Northern Quebec Agreement. The Cree government says that both of these agreements take precedence over Bill 97. I did reach out to the Cree Nation to request an interview last week. However, they said that they're currently in the stage of reviewing this bill, and during this time they will not be granting interviews.
And Savannah, have there been any other kinds of protests in Montreal since this bill?
Yeah, specifically in Montreal, there have been some protests. I attended one a few weeks ago, and there's also one being hosted this Sunday outside of the Olympic Stadium at 1 p.m. These protests are being organized by Emily Fleming-Dubuc. She's not First Nations, she's actually Inuk, and her mother is from Nunavik in northern Quebec. During the interview I had with Emily, she said that this issue is really important to her to both defend the environment and protect Indigenous rights. She also compared Bill 97 to the extraction of natural resources in the north, saying that Inuit communities have been left in conditions that are worse than underdeveloped countries.
Savannah, you mentioned earlier that the provincial government sees this as strengthening Quebec's economy. Is this bill a direct response to Trump's tariffs?
Well, over the last few months, we've seen a push across Canada to make the country's economy more independent. I spoke to the press attaché, Emily Savard, who's from the office of Quebec's Minister of Natural Resources and Forests, and she said that the forestry reform was announced on June 28th of last year. So she said this was done after 12 consultations were held across the province regarding the future of forests in Quebec. She said that the government identified the importance of modernizing the Quebec's forestry regime as a result of these consultations. So as we can see from this was announced ahead of Trump's tariffs, which were announced this year. However, when I brought up the question to Savard, whether this is a response to Trump's tariffs. She said that the issue of tariffs adds another layer of uncertainty to the forestry industry here in Quebec. But she did say that this makes the forestry regime more crucial than ever with Trump's tariffs now in place.
Savannah, we'll have to leave it there. That's APTN Savannah Craig reporting from our studio in Montreal.
Thanks, Creason.
If you have a story idea you want to send us feedback about, here's how to reach us. If you have a story you want to share, send us an email to news@aptn.ca. To read and watch our stories, go to www.aptnnews.ca. And you can also find us online on your favorite social media sites, including TikTok, LinkedIn, and X. And you can watch this newscast anywhere, anytime, daily on the YouTube app. Follow APTN News to join the conversation and see our latest stories. While some evacuees are finally going home this week, the firefight continues for many across this country. We'll bring you an update when we come back. Stay with us. Welcome back. As more questions surround Buffy Sainte-Marie's identity in music has never been more confusing. For this Indigenous History Month, we hear from the people it impacts most. Métis folk musician Mitchell McCoons and Anishinaabe indie rock star Tashina Baswa helps us lay down the foundation of how we got here. APTN's Veronica Blackhawk has that story.
As the robins sing, all I can think about is money. If I'm gonna make it, if I should even try to find my way, navigate the water, time isn't question, I need help.
Mitchell McCoons is a Red River Métis musician from Manitoba House, a settlement in the province. We reflect on what it means to embrace his cultural identity through song.
It was scary to be a Métis person, so people were really good at hiding it, that really believe that reconnecting is something that they need. And having my music as like a starting off point is really nice. There's a few protest songs that we had in our set, and somebody in the audience didn't like it, so they met us at our cars at the end of the show and were really kind of threatening us and telling us that they didn't like the message we were sharing. And that's terrifying.
When we talk about Indigenous protest songs, it's hard not to acknowledge Buffy Sainte-Marie. Now that we've had time to process the truth about her identity claims and spaces she's occupied, Mitchell's opinion sits in a different light.
I can see all the good things that came out of it, but when you talk about the funding that somebody, say on reserve, like could have used to come to a real studio in the city, versus someone that's already had so much success and being given more money, that's like, it's so frustrating, because their mid-career movement could take the place of somebody's start.
Tashina Baswa is the Anishinaabe singer-songwriter from North Spirit Lake First Nation, Ontario, and the voice behind Montreal's new post-punk outfit, Ribbon Skirt. Their album, Bite Down, released this April, was recognized in Rolling Stone magazine, a Stereo Gum Artist Feature of the Week, and most recently, a nomination for the Polaris Long List. The album touches on grief, reclamation, and urban Indigenous challenges. She explains the themes in her song, Off Res.
They want 2000s Buffy Marie. They want my status, but they're getting my teeth.
Bureaucratic systems that, really hold Indigenous people back or to a certain standard, or make us jump through certain hoops to prove ourselves, prove our identity, even with accessing healthcare and education and, getting the status card.
Tashina reflects on the importance of sharing her story.
Indigenous art is so important because our stories have been, silenced for so long, and we've been, we haven't been listened to for so long, and we continue to not be listened to. But I do think there's a space in art where people are more receptive to these stories because they're presented in a beautiful way. And I think if we can find our niche somewhere in there and a way to break through and get people to listen somehow, then if art is that way, then I think that is a good thing.
This week, we speak with a range of artists and industry professionals to unravel the challenges and rewards of what it means to make Indigenous music in Canada. Here to walk along with you in that good way, I'm Veronica Blackhawk, APTN National News.
And that is part one of Veronica's 5-part series, Face Value. Keep watching APTN National News for another Face Value story. With summer just around the corner, that means graduation day is here for many. We'll take you to one grad ceremony in the Yukon when we come back. Stay with us. Thanks for staying with us. Time now for our photo of the day. Jen Moore got up and close on a dandelion that she says never seems to go away, and this one was standing tall on a warm pre-summer day. Thanks, Jen, for the picture. For the chance to be our next photo of the day, send us your pictures to share at aptn.ca. Time now for tomorrow's weather forecast. On the East Coast, Charlottetown 24, Halifax 22 and sun. Happy Valley, Goose Bay, rain and 17, Cartwright 14. Quebec City 26, Montreal, same temperature and rain there. Windsor 30 and rain, Toronto 28 and rain. Timmins 24 and showers, Thunder Bay showers there as well at 23. Churchill 14, Thompson 22. Sunny in Winnipeg at 25, Barons River 22. Swift Current 25, Regina rain there 24. Buffalo Narrows 22, Larange 21. 22 in Peace River, Fort McMurray 23. 28 in Lethbridge, Medicine Hat showers and 27. Vancouver partly cloudy and 19, Kamloops 30. Fort Nelson 18, Smithers 21. 17 in Whitehorse, Rock River 17. 25 in Wrigley, Fort Simpson showers and 28. Colville Lake, sunny there at 20, Paulatuck 7. 9 in Baker Lake and showers there, Chesterfield 2. And Iqaluit 5, and Iqaluit 3. It's graduation season in the Yukon, and high school students from across the territory are in celebration mode. This year is the 50th anniversary of the First Nation graduation ceremony in Whitehorse. A total of 126 students from 14 First Nations in the Yukon earned their diplomas this week. Graduates are encouraged to wear traditional regalia, often made by the graduates themselves and their loving families.
Our elders dreamed of this day when our young people would rise up, be educated and empowered, ready to lead with courage and kindness. You are that dream fulfilled. So go forward with ambition. The land is watching. Your people are with you, and your communities walk beside you.
As we move into the future, be kind, find the best in others, and try to make the world a better place. Kuksham, thank you, and congratulations to the 2025 grads.
Ojibwe artist Cedar Eve unveiled a mural in Montreal dedicated to Montreal's Two-Spirit community. It was completed in 2024, but Wednesday was when it was officially presented to the community to coincide with Pride Month and Indigenous Peoples History Month. Our APTN reporter Savannah Craig joins us again and spoke with the artists and those involved in helping this mural come to life.
It's important to keep reminding people that we are here.
This Gotnyagahaga elder interprets this mural as a reminder that Indigenous people aren't going anywhere.
You look at it and you can read so many things into that one mural. From the agony, from the suffering, all the way down to the knowing. Now we know, now we see.
Sedalia Gotwinotis Fazio did the opening ceremony for the mural's presentation. She says pieces of art like this are more valuable than land acknowledgements.
Painting is very therapeutic. I think color is healing. Color has the power to change a space.
Cedar Eve is an Ojibwe artist from Wikwemikong in Ontario. They painted the mural calling it Two-Spirit Symbiosis. It represents their own relationship with their identity as a two-spirit person.
In the image, there's one main head and then there's two heads coming out of it. And I think how I feel in between two worlds in that sense of just like, I feel like my position and role changes on a day-to-day and how I interact with community and kin and my family.
Widia La Riviere is the executive director of McKenna, a non-profit organization that raises awareness about Indigenous realities. McKenna worked alongside the Two-Spirit Committee to make this mural happen.
We thought the month of June was perfect to unveil this mural because June is the Indigenous People History Month.
Dana Danger is an advisory council member for the Two-Spirit Committee. They say this mural helps promote Two-Spirit visibility in Montreal.
I think because of the missionization and colonization of our people, we've taken on other sort of ideas about queer people, and that was never the case in a lot of our different nations.
Cedar Eve is still processing how their artwork ended up on a residential building in the neighborhood of Hochelaga, east of downtown Montreal.
Sometimes it feels like I'm like this vessel that's just transferring this energy inside of me onto a wall, and then this is what comes out.
Savannah Craig, APTN National News, Montreal.
And that's your evening newscast for this Monday. We're back again for your daytime newscast tomorrow, including an announcement from the Barons River First Nation to take Manitoba, Canada, and Manitoba Hydro to court. Please join us then. From all of us at APTN National News, hi miigwech masicho. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you again. Ekse.
Yeah, but this is Queen Victoria, so there's new, and this is...
The same thing, Queen Victoria.
Yeah,
she was the head of the crown.
And in those days.